How do you ask for a date? What about this?
Ian? Well, how about a date? Well,
really? No thanks, Woody.
The Incel rebellion has already begun. We will overthrow all Chads and Stacys. All hail the Supreme Gentleman Elliot Rodger.
So this video is more of an informal blog style post that I've been meaning to make for a while. Glancing at my YouTube analytics, I can see that, like most political content creators, the majority of my audience consists of young men in their late teens and 20s. And if the declining marriage rate is to be believed, it's likely that the majority of you are not in serious long-term relationships. The first thing I have to say is that it may be easy for some of you to simply go out to the bar or a party and sleep with random girls. It's common for young men to try and assure themselves of potential Chad status by engaging in that kind of promiscuous behavior, and my answer to this is simply don't do it. You might derive short-term validation from doing that, but it won't last long and you'll probably regret it later. I'm approaching 30 years old now, and although I had engaged in that sort of behavior in the past, I must admit that I wish I hadn't done it. It provided no stable validation for me, and at the end of such encounters, you're ultimately still alone. Engaging in this kind of hedonistic behavior won't make you happy. If you've already done so yourself, then you probably know what I'm talking about here. And if you're part of my audience in the first place, it's likely that you want to have a family someday. You want to have children, take care of them, and have a good life, and I share that sentiment. Social research has found that premarital sexual promiscuity may be associated with negative outcomes for future marriage prospects. You may have heard in the past that for women, higher numbers of premarital sexual partners correlates with a greater likelihood of marriage ending in divorce. See Counterintuitive Trends in the Link Between Premarital Sex and Marital Stability, Wolfinger 2016. Women with 0 or only 1 premarital sexual partner were the least likely to divorce later on, while women with 3 to 9 sexual partners were more likely, and women with 10 or more partners were the most likely to divorce. What's odd, however, is that women with 2 partners were more likely to divorce than women with 3 to 9 partners or 0 to 1 partners, but not as likely as women with 10 or more. But men are not off the hook here. Research has also demonstrated a correlation between premarital promiscuity and lower self-reported sexual satisfaction when married. See the effects of premarital sexual promiscuity on subsequent marital sexual satisfaction, Christensen 2004. The correlation was broadly observed in a combined model of the data, but when segregating the data by gender, the correlation was only significant in men. These are correlative statements based on self-reported data, and we don't know why exactly this is the case, but I think it's worth pointing out. I find it especially worth noting because young men tend to want women with a lower body count, fewer sexual partners under her belt. And if you, as a young man, engage in this promiscuous behavior yourself, well, then you are, by necessity, enabling that promiscuous behavior on the part of women. You're adding a notch to someone else's belt as well as your own. And although sex typically plays out as the result of a woman's welcoming and acceptance of it, you as a man are as much a participant in the act as women are. The expectation is for you to make the moves, so if you dislike seeing that behavior in women, don't be party to it. If you want to meet a woman who lives up to a certain expectation of yours, then don't enable behavior that runs counter to that expectation. Don't thirst after e-girls on Twitter, don't validate bar crawlers and thoughts, and don't lower your own standards just for a cheap lay. Now, alternatively to all this, the true and proper incel is definable as a young man aggrieved by his complete lack of romantic or sexual prospects. Users of message boards like incel.me and 4chan's R9K board make use of terms like kissless virgin to describe themselves, and these young men express their loneliness in the form of online rage directed at normies, chads, and Stacys, or roasties. If you fall into this category of young men, I shouldn't have to tell you that venting it online is not productive behavior, and in fact it runs counter to everything you should be doing. In my opinion, finding a long-term girlfriend or a potential future wife is not as difficult as people make it out to be. The first mistake made by young men, and especially incels, is to view it as a problem that requires continuous and active attempts to rectify, or as something that they should obsess over. Some people use the aforementioned promiscuity as a means of trying on potential mates, others might just go on a lot of dates or use an online dating app, and true incels simply don't make an effort at all, suppressed by the fear of their own perceived shortcomings, choosing to complain to other incels on the internet. All of these are serious errors in my opinion. If you want a long-term partner, someone who might be a good wife and mother, the first and most important thing you can do is focus on yourself in a positive way. Don't engage in self-destructive behavior and expect anything to change. I've never had a meaningful, long-term relationship that came from swiping right on Tinder or going out to the bar, and certainly not from complaining on the internet. Committing a lot of mental and emotional effort to trying to find a woman and viewing it as a task to complete will only set you up for a long string of disappointments and discouraging outcomes. Focusing on yourself and on activities and goals that benefit and fulfill you is a much better course of action, and if you're consistently putting yourself in those positive situations, you'll probably meet someone when you least expect it. You'll interact with thousands of people over the course of your life, and sooner or later you'll feel a sort of chemistry with at least one of them. Maybe she'll give you a certain look or a little smile or some other kind of social cue. Maybe you're out to eat and your waitress seems unusually friendly or enthusiastic. Maybe you're walking the dog and she stops to pet it and you spark a conversation. I don't know. There are a million different ways this could happen. It's not something you can predict or surgically zero in on and cause to happen whenever you want. It's just how it works. Constantly worrying about how to make it happen is a waste of your mental energy and will only bring you disappointment. You also need to be honest with yourself about what you can reasonably expect from women. In so many words, you need to be the kind of man who would attract the kind of woman that you want. You have to put yourself in situations where you're likely to meet that woman. And if you want a woman who will be a good mother to your children, well, the local tavern is not one of those situations. Tinder is not one of those situations. Your first and most important concern is to focus on bettering yourself and your own situation, and on being the best version of yourself that you can possibly be. Get some exercise, read books, learn an instrument or other recreational skill. Get out of the house and put yourself in situations with good, positive people. As hard as it might be to believe sometimes, good people do exist. Good women exist. Don't just shut yourself off and feel sorry for yourself. Now, this may just sound like a cop-out, a cheap Jordan Peterson-style dad pill, and that might be a fair criticism. After all, taking good care of yourself will not magically make a GF appear for you in some instantly gratifying way, and you want a GF now. The reason I'm putting so much emphasis on self-improvement is that the incels are kind of right in some sense. Women are very concerned with the appearances of men, not so much with physical appearances, but appearances of social status and sense of self-worth. Women are not so much attracted to your physical fitness or your face as they are attracted to what they think you have to offer and how you carry yourself, which leads us to a series of questions. Do you have confidence in yourself? Are you passionate about a goal or aspiration? And do you work towards it in an outwardly apparent way? Are you good at something? Do you have your life together in general? And if the answer to any of these questions is no, you must then examine yourself and ask why the answer is no, and be honest with yourself about what you can do to change it. Don't try to improve yourself with the sole aim of getting female attention. Do it for yourself and the rest will follow. When you talk to people in real life, make confident eye contact. Project your voice with your diaphragm. Smile a little as you talk, even during phone conversations. Your tone will sound more positive and self-assured. All of these signals are easier to broadcast when you feel genuine confidence in yourself, when you feel good about yourself. And that's what the focus on self-improvement is for. Genuine likability will come more naturally to you as a result. It'll be easier for you to project that aura of confidence. The incel has the tendency to wallow in his own lack of affection and emotional fulfillment, to join an echo chamber in which his negative feelings and shortcomings, real or perceived, are enforced and reinforced in an endless feedback loop of self-pity and resentment. This is something a lot of normie takes on the incel subculture have managed to overlook. These guys aren't just upset that they can't get laid. Their frustration comes from a deep sense of alienation, a fear that they'll always be alone. And it's somewhat understandable that someone could fall into that sense of despondency, because men kind of do get a raw deal in modern society. There are a lot of risks involved with dating, and especially with getting married. If it doesn't work out, you could end up being dragged through the family courts for years, even if you didn't actually do anything wrong. But the way to guard against that is, again, to be that best version of yourself, to maximize whatever it is you have to offer and maintain it to the best of your ability. Yes, there's no guarantee that it'll work out, but there are still people out there getting married and having families, and that's how they're doing it. You have to be a man that a woman wouldn't want to leave. You have to make her believe that she would be taking a loss by letting go of you, and you have to be able to back up that perception as well. She has to have a good reason to believe that. Don't lie about your value as a man, demonstrate it. Just like in filmmaking, the rule here should be show, don't tell. Yes, there are risks involved. Yes, you could call it unfair that men take on so many potential drawbacks in the process, but you're never going to get what you want if you don't accept those risks, or just sit around feeling bad about yourself. Nothing worth doing is ever easy. Now, I'm not saying that every incel out there can find a woman if he just tries hard enough. Just like with everything else, there are going to be winners and losers in the realm of dating and sex. But even if you end up never achieving that goal, Following the advice I've given you will at least provide you with fulfillment of your own as an individual person, and it'll probably make you into a better citizen and member of your community as well. The prospect of meeting women should be viewed as secondary to doing what makes you happy and improves you as a man. And if or when you do meet a good woman, well, that's just icing on the cake. Don't define your self-worth based on how much female attention you receive. That's a quick and easy way to undermine your own mental and emotional well-being and keep yourself stuck in that rut. The existence of the incel subculture is understandable to a degree, but sitting around and wallowing in self-hatred, comparing yourself to others, and feeding off of jealousy isn't going to do you any favors. It's not good for your mental health, and it may drive you to think very unhealthy thoughts and potentially do unhealthy things. There's no easy answer or magic bullet, but you have to do what's right for yourself, and by doing that, you will naturally become more appealing to others. You can't let that mindset consume you.